We're here on the North Norfolk coast for another Time Team excavation.
We're looking for a Roman fort here in Brancaster. How will we get on? You'll find out in this Time Team podcast.
Welcome to the Time Team podcast with Martin Williams and Helen Geake, and this week we are at the Roman fort of Branodunum. It is very windy. We're right on the North Norfolk coast, but we're just about still standing up.
Yeah, we are. It is so windy here, but you get a bit of an idea of what is going on behind us. So you can see there is the digger opening up one of the trenches. There's another trench just behind our right shoulder there, and in the distance you can see the big marquee and the dome. It's a proper Time Team dig. We're back here again because we were here, of course,
14 years ago.
Well, we were here 14 years ago. We were here last year as well, doing some geophysics, but we're back again. Why?
Well, in 2012, 14 years ago, there were some questions to ask of the site here which didn't manage to get completely answered, and that was in the digging, but there was also the geophysics that didn't finish because there was so much data that it just broke the computers of the day. Now, in September, the geophysics was redone with 5.8 billion data points, and the computers managed to deal with it all in 3 days. And so we got the most amazing radar from in the fort, and magnetometry, because the radar didn't work outside the fort because radar works with stone buildings, but we got magnetometry from the vicus around on the south and the east side, and that was extraordinary as well. We didn't find the edges. This settlement seems to go on forever. So having done that, we had a beautiful plan of the fort, but we didn't know what any of it meant. We had all these buildings and these sequences, but what came first and what came second and what date was anything. So we have to come back and dig.
Well, we came back and we did the geophysics, as Helen says, and the images we got were just spectacular. All those billions of data points, and what an image they produced. So we know now where we need to be digging, but what should we be looking for? What is the plan? What are we going to dig here?
Well, what we have to do in the trenches is, it depends on which trench we're talking about. Trench 1, which is the gatehouse and the wall, the important thing there is that the gatehouse, the radar has shown that it's got a curved front. It sticks out of the fort, and that's considered to be a later Roman innovation. So the question is that a modification, a later modification of an earlier fort, or is it all built in one piece, which might suggest it's later than people have thought? So we've got to get the date, but we've also got to get the relationship between the wall and the gatehouse. Is the gatehouse later? Is it a modification, or is it original? And then in Trench 2, which is what we're calling the wonky building is on a kind of what feels more like an Iron Age alignment. There's an Iron Age field system all around here, which is on a slightly different alignment, and that wonky building fits it. Now, until we got the radar, everybody said, oh look, it's an earlier building. But when we got the radar, we realised that all of the walls linked up, all of the corners work. It works as a proper Roman building. It looks like, dare I say it, it looks like a Roman villa, but it's stuffed in the corner of a fort. That doesn't happen. So we need to find out what date that is and how it links into the other walls. So we've picked for Trench 2 this part where there are a lot of walls that can't all have been in use at one time. So it's a complicated bit of stratigraphy, and that's got to be unpicked.
There's a lot to do. I will say at this point, if you want to follow along, we have been putting updates all the time on Patreon. If you haven't seen them already, go and check them out, because when we were here doing it, those updates were going out daily, so you can get a real idea, if you're a supporter, a Time Team member, exactly what we're getting up to, sort of minute by minute with Dig Watch. Derek and Lawrence have been doing a fantastic job with that. We are going to be very busy on this podcast, so here is my plan. I reckon we split up, because we've got a huge area to try and...
2.5 hectares? Yes, yeah. It's a lot.
2.5 hectares to cover, lots and lots of people to talk to. You go that way, yep. I'll go that way, and we'll meet back here at the end.
Lovely. Okay, I'll see you later. Bye. It's getting windier and windier here at the Roman fort of Branodunum, but we are keeping on steadily, not falling over. And here we are in the middle of the fort itself. We've got the southern side there, which we understand a lot better. We're here in the northern side, which we really don't understand. We've got trench 1 over with the digger there, that's on the gatehouse. And we've got trench 2 over here, which is on what we call the wonky building. Now, we came here in the first place because we were so excited by the wonderful geophysics, and I'll just interrupt John and Jimmy, who are having a bit of a gossip here, to say here we are finally investigating this wonderful geophysics. And what are you hoping to find?
Something Roman. I hope.
Jimmy, what about you?
I think just crowning glory. Is that okay? Can I have that?
Well, you can, but what I want to know is, will the crowning glory... I appreciate that we've got a lot of stone under here. Have we got stone buildings, or have we got stone footings with timber buildings on top, for example?
Well, that's a good question, because it could be either. And one of the things that we sometimes see on sites where there are the bottom courses of the walls still in the ground, buried, is that we see breaks in the walls because you have to have doorways. Now, we haven't seen very many doorways. I was looking at the data again today, and I couldn't find very many of those. So that might suggest that you've got stone foundations with predominantly timber above, or it just means they did a good job of taking away the nice building stone, and therefore we don't see much of it.
But you think you've got foundations, you've got floor levels.
Yes.
So if you've got floor levels that are intact, you'd expect to have breaks in the walls, entrance doors.
Yep. We just don't see them very well.
Yeah.
I was going to say, is that maybe because they're made of timber? But that sounds mad, because they had to have thresholds made of stone, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you've got to have a gap.
You've got to have a gap in the stone.
Yeah.
Yes.
But like certainly on some of the bigger structures, I mean the floor surfaces are some of the shallowest responses we've got. So clearly they've done a pretty good job of taking away the walls. But yeah, it's something to carry on investigating, I think, while we're here and they're doing the digging, is to see whether we can just eke out what were the paths through these buildings.
We've been so mesmerised, so seduced by these extraordinary radar images.
Average.
But what we're not discussing so much is that we've also got extraordinary magnetometry. There are really some really big, huge blobs on the magnetometry within the fort. Do you think those are Roman?
I think they probably are, and they're build-up of midden deposits, the rubbish deposits that tend to be highly magnetic.
Right.
Now, there could be demolition features, filling in hollows. We don't fully understand them, to be honest, but they were too big and probably too complex to be able to put a small trench into and hope to be able to understand it in 3 days.
We've got Brancaster today, a field, and we've got Brancaster in the Roman period, the amazing geophysics and the crop marks and the excavation, etc., etc. And forget that it had a whole 1,500 years of life in between, most of the time with these huge walls here standing up to, maybe 7 metres high.
Yeah. Which we can't map, unfortunately.
No, but they must have influenced the way people behaved. Maybe people had things going on within the walls, markets and fairs and anything that you might want to circumscribe. Races, I don't know, parties.
Yeah. We're looking at this data, and it's the wall lines are so crisp, and we see these structures that it's so easy to forget that there's 250, 300 years of continuous use here. And talking to Tony, the Roman archaeologist, he was saying it's this is perfectly normal. They reuse the buildings, so you have exactly the same footprint, despite the fact that for 100 years it was a granary, and for another 100 years it was something entirely different. So yeah.
There's so much we don't know, isn't there? But it's lovely to talk for a few minutes about what we do know about. Thank you both very much.
Helen, thank you very much. I've come to the other side of the field from where you are at the moment, and just to put this in a bit of context as to where I am. So this is our second trench that's just opened, and in the last few minutes there's a brand new trench that's just opened over here. You can see the digger just starting to open that up. That's really exciting. But go back 14 years, and in 2012 we were working just over here actually, and what we're doing at the moment, and Giselle and Matt are in the trench alongside some of our fantastic volunteers, and they are working on reopening the trench that was opened back in 2012. Can I come and join you in there? Right, I'm coming in. Hi Matt, hi Giselle. Can I walk here? Is that all right?
That's just loose spoil.
That's loose stuff. All right.
To be sorted.
Explain then, Matt, first of all, you were here back in 2012. What was going on here then?
Well, I was not literally in this bit, because the bit we're standing in here is the new bit. The old bit that I stood in was there, and we have the old wall going across here, and it comes across in front of me here, and what we're on here is the front of that wall, and Giselle and I are just clearing off all the rubble from where, along the front line of this wall here, and it's flipping hard work, to be honest.
Okay, so, I mean, this is back-breaking stuff. Giselle, what are you finding that's different then from the 2012 excavation?
Well, so basically, I mean, it's loads of rubble. That wall there is really nicely structured, but this is all just tons of rock. It's flint, there's mortar, there's some of that grey stone, that fancy grey stone that would have made up the walls. And so we're just taking all of that out, and if we get deep enough, hopefully we'll get something like what that wall looks like, a nice, more structure.
Right, more structure. And is this oyster shells and things like that?
Yes, I mean, maybe 1 million oyster shells. Okay. We've also got a bit of metal. We're not really sure what it is, but this was all in one context. It's all from one deposit. We've also got some mortaria, so if you look at it, it's got a bit of grit on it.
Oh yeah, like little bobbles I can see.
Yeah. So this is kind of kitchenware. This could be a kitchen dump. Obviously we're not sure just yet, but we found it. We've also got some dark soil that came with it. That could be cooking ash or cooking organic material that started to break down. We put it in a sample and we'll send this off to Naomi and she can do some processing of it.
And I'm going to go and speak to Naomi later. Why are there so many oyster shells?
Well, they just loved oysters.
Is that what it is? They just really liked eating oysters?
I mean, we're close to the ocean, so there's access to it, and it's free food in a way. It's not that hard to hunt oysters because they're just there. So,
Matt, where we are at the moment, then, this trench is what we're thinking would have been the main entrance to the fort?
Yeah, exactly. So the wall in front of me is the north wall. The sea is behind me. So I'm just outside the fort. The gate is to my left. And underneath us, hopefully, there should be this round-fronted gatehouse or bastion or whatever you want to call it, but we know from the radar it's probably now another 20 or 30 centimetres to go, so that's what we're trying. That's what the aim of this little extension here is to find that gatehouse.
Right, well, can I help in any way? I don't want to get in the way. I want to help, Giselle.
Absolutely can. Here you go.
Right.
Take this trowel.
Okay.
I'll switch you, in fact.
All right, fine.
I'll take this.
What do you want me to do?
So if you kind of crouch down here,
yeah,
and just as if you were spreading butter on a piece of toast with this as your knife, just slowly clean a little bit of spoil off, exactly like that.
Okay.
There you go. You're doing it. You're doing it.
I'm being an archaeologist, sort of. What am I looking for? What am I doing by doing this?
So what you're doing is you're cleaning any of this loose bits of soil off, and it's going to give us this is actually called cleaning. And as you're cleaning, we're able to get a better look at what is going on in this trench. So you can see all these little bits of yellow. This is actually mortar, bits of mortar. So this is part of the wall rubble. We've got a bit of snail. I mean, that's normal to find things like that.
Right.
We're going to see if we can find any colour changes, if there's any texture changes. You might find a piece of bone or a piece of pottery. So you're kind of, your eyes in, looking for all of these different things. And it just looks like you're moving soil, but actually you're doing loads of stuff at one time.
Okay, and how do I know if I've gone too far and I've done too much?
You really just want to take about 1 centimetre off and just kind of give it a little bit of a scrape, and then you'll move backwards and keep doing that, and you'll go all the way to the back of this trench doing it.
Okay, well, I'm going to get to work.
Yes.
Thank you very much, and I'll let you get to work as well. And, well, I'll spend a little while doing this, and shall I? Here we are.
I have managed to catch up with Stuart before the heavens open, we think. It's still incredibly windy, isn't it, Stuart?
It's cold as well.
But you're normally walking around so you don't get cold. You've been sitting in the dome. I've dragged you away from a screen, but I have seen you walking up and down. What have you been doing?
Well, trying to understand the landscape around the fort. I know there's such a lot of focus on digging the fort and finding structures in the fort, but I want to understand what the landscape was like, if possible, before the Romans arrived, what the Romans did to it. All the questions, in a way, to help place the fort in the landscape.
So that we understand what it's doing here.
It's one of the primary questions, in a way. It's not just that there is a fort, it has to have a reason to have a fort here. What are they trying to do? Are they trying to place a fort here to dominate the landscape? To say, look, we're big, we're powerful, we want to protect you? Or is it here because it's a good place close to a road? Or is it a good place because it's on a slope or a hill? All the factors of geography, politics, geopolitics all come into play, don't they? Isn't there? We were having a conversation earlier on, which was really getting really good. That you're almost trying to place your mind back and try and think of all the possibilities without really knowing which are practical, pragmatic solutions to problems of the landscape, and how much of it is that power politics that's going on, and the domination of society, and all the kind of peripheral things. I know which side you tend to fall on. I'm very much a pragmatist, and you've got a lot more theoretical perspective to bring into it, but when you start to mesh the two together, it's actually quite stimulating to try and unpick a landscape through different perspectives, isn't it?
Yes, because earlier on, when I first found you in front of your screen, I was trying to push you to say, why is it here and not, say, further along the coast at Brancaster Staithe, where there's a better harbour? Why is it here and not up there, where you can see more out to sea? What was here before? Was there anything here before? Was the Vicus here before, as a lot of people have suggested? There are so many questions, aren't there?
You know, we've got evidence, we've just got to try and unpick it. Now, the way I'm approaching this is that the landscape around us seems to display quite complex field systems. Type of field systems you only see in a landscape that's heavily managed and cultivated, and quite often the patterns that I'm seeing at the moment indicate a pre-Roman field system. So what then you've got to try and do is unpick the relationship between elements of the field system around the fort and the fort. Can we see anywhere where the fort earthworks or the Vicus signatures on geophysics interact with those fields?
Nothing's entirely perfect, is it? There's no perfect place to put a fort. This is like a kind of mixture of all the different things. It's close enough to Brancaster Staithe, but it's not quite in the perfect place. But it has that really useful semi-made ditch already, and it doesn't quite fit into the landscape, but it's in a really good place where you can see enough to be good enough. It's a good enough place.
It's a bit like when we set up the dome in this field here. All the questions about, well, where are we going to put the dome? Well, we can't put it there because we need to do some geophysics. We can't put it there because we're going to dig a hole up there. We can't put it there because it blocks the farmer's gate. All these kind of things have to be solved, but we turn up and there's a dome in a field, and you come, oh, well, I put the dome there, it's totally the wrong place for me, but nobody asked me. And that's kind of what we're trying to unpick. Some things we'll never actually know. We can only try and work with the evidence that we've got. It's really stimulating trying to unpick all these various elements, and this is what I really like about this site, is that it's using a whole range of approaches, everything from looking at the contours under the water, the bathymetry, to looking at the landscape, geophysics, trying to assemble all these factors which might affect why it's placed here. So it's a real puzzle to try and piece together, but it's great fun, isn't it?
That's brilliant, Stuart. That's a really clear exposition of why you do what you do and what we get out of it. It's wonderful. Martyn, that's all from me and Stuart here. Where are you?
Thank you very much, Helen. I am somewhere very important, by a very important tent. This is where, well, lunch happens, but also this is where the finds are brought. So the trenches, which are just behind over there, people will find things in those trenches, they will bring them in here, and this is where our finds team are. So there's a whole load of people who are busy, you can see, look, scrubbing here with toothbrushes, giving that a good scrub there, cleaning it up. Lots of very, I imagine, cold water.
Yes,
Tony,
very
have
cold.
you nominated yourself as chief scrubber?
I've been nominated chief scrubber. Yes. Yes.
And is it very cold water?
It is quite cold. Yeah.
What are you having to do here? What's the job?
The grounds come out. The finds come out of the ground covered with mud, dirt. Sometimes quite a bit. Just basically wash it off. Wash the mud out of every nook and cranny. When we have bones, get a stick in there, everything out. If you leave the mud in or you leave it too wet, it'll go mold and ruin the finds when they're in storage. So we need to be very, very careful about that. We also don't wash metal. So we actually just a little bit ago found a coin, and we didn't notice it was in there until the soil fell off of it. So we have this tiny little coin. We're waiting for Filippo to come and identify it. But we're finding a lot of ceramic building material, they call it, with tiles and bricks.
Yeah, so that's a sort of rusted colour, I would guess.
Yeah. So something
sort
like
of
this,
orangey colour.
Something like this, which I think is probably a roof tile. Pretty much looks like a roof tile. There's some nails. We're not to wash the metal because it will corrode away and is often more fragile. And so we leave the metal alone. We're finding some old pot. I've been told that this is actually Roman, even though it looks like it might be Iron Age.
Okay.
Yep.
So all of this is coming in. So you're getting to see really the loot, as it were. You know, the really exciting finds that are coming in from all of these trenches. And then is the toothbrush, and you've got another little brush there. These are the best tools for the job.
They are. They're soft enough that they won't ruin anything. We can get in there and really scrub in. We can use sticks and wooden spoons to scrape the dirt away, but we want to make sure that we're not scratching it up or removing any markings that are on it. We did find, it's not here now, but we did find a stone that was covered with paint. And so while we were washing it, the paint was starting to come off, so we quickly put that aside. So all of these are coming from Trench 4. So Trench 4, Context 1, which means it's the first 10 centimeters of the trench. So everything that's being washed right now is there. We'll finish this up, we'll put it away, and then we'll get another context out and start washing that.
Great, and it's so important, isn't it, to make sure all these are labelled, you know which trench they're coming from, because it would be very easy if there wasn't a system for all of this just to get jumbled up.
Yes, absolutely, and we're very careful to do only one context at a time. We'll do it as quickly as we can, because if you have multiple contexts, it's just easy to misplace it into a different area.
Great. And are you one of our volunteers then?
I am, yes.
You're here. Well, we're brilliant to have you. I'm detecting an accent. Have you come far?
Well, we live in London, but I started becoming a Time Team fan in California before we moved and became a Patreon member there as well. So.
Okay. Well, you haven't made that long a journey for this specific one, but in general.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, it's brilliant to have you. I'll leave you keep getting on with your very, very important work. So this is what's happening in this bit of the tent, but over the other side here is something else very exciting. So this is the hub of the kind of production bit. So you're loads of people with loads of equipment. There's Derek, who's just been doing the live on YouTube.
Yeah, fresh
How was
off
it?
the live. It was intense, terrifying, and ultimately a success, I think, Martin.
I think so, definitely. Absolutely. Well, fingers crossed more of those to come.
Yeah, I hope so. Although, I kind of want to go and dig a hole.
Yeah, well, you go and do that. You get a chance to go and do it. So you might notice something a bit funny here. So obviously all of this computer equipment, all of these cameras, you can imagine what they're for making Time Team. But what is this? Look at this over here. I'm standing next to a Christmas tree, which you might think is a little bit strange in the middle of March, and that is because we're trying to kill multiple birds with one stone and make a lot of sort of content for our Christmas stuff that we're doing with Time Team as well. So that's why there's some Christmas stuff. Let me very quickly take you from here. This is a proper little behind-the-scenes tour now. Let me run out past Karen, past Anthony. Hello! And I'm going to take you now just over here, over to the dome, which is in the tent right next door to where we just were. Hi Bear, hello. And let me just very quickly give you a little peek inside the dome at the moment. You can see Stuart and Henry there at the moment, all working We've got Neil who's working on some of our graphics as well, so there's an awful lot going on in the dome. I can see Danny, I can see loads and loads of people. This is where the sort of magic really happens, and anything can kind of happen here, as you can imagine. All the data is coming in, we process a lot of it, and we have a look at a lot of the finds as well. So a lot going on in these 2 tents.
I'm at the test pits, so I'm in the southern field. We've got one test pit here and one test pit over there, and in this test pit the person in charge is Emily. Emily, can you come and tell me all about it?
We can have a go.
Brilliant.
What would you like to know?
I think I'd like to know why the test pits are here and what you found in your test pit.
Lovely. So we are in test pit 6, so welcome to test pit 6. And this test pit was located based on the geophysical results for this field. And we're in the sort of surrounding vicus of the fort. We're looking for people and what they were up to on that sort of fort exterior, in the sort of probably the sort of habitation, where they were living, what they were doing, where they were going. And when I say where they were going, we are positioned to try and hopefully find a trackway or routeway. It looks like a nice, great big linear mark on the geophysics. So we're expecting and hoping to find some sort of surface there to tell us that there's a road or a route or a track.
And when you say geophysics, you mean magnetometry, don't you? Because the radar didn't really pick up anything here.
The radar wasn't as helpful as we'd hoped, so the mag is the one that's done the job for us. So this was located to look for that trackway. It also highlighted a possible pit, which we have come down onto, so it's nice to know that we're in the right place and the geophysics is telling us the right thing. So the team are busy working away to try and understand what's there.
And that path or track was a north-south thing, a really big part of the landscape, wasn't it? So have you found it?
Well, you've turned up incredibly at exactly the right time, as the chaps in the trench behind me are just trying to understand. They've just come down onto what looks like it might be a little bit of a metalled surface off in the
Go on, then where here?
Over in the back, where they're busy troweling away. There's some metally sort of compact stone flint that something may have been sort of trodden over, rode over, wagon wheels may have spun over to sort of really compact it down. So they've come onto this quite dense layer of stones, and they're just now starting to clean it back to try and understand whether it's an intentional track deposit or whether we've just found some more flint in this very flinty field. So
yes, because I thought you were going to say it's here, because I can see a few bits of stone there, but actually that's just our trample, isn't it? And
it's a little bit of our trample, but it's also down onto the pit that we did have. So you can just about make out there's a big piece of oyster shell and a big piece of brick just in the edge there of what we think is the edge of the cut for this pit that the geophysics was also on top of, and it runs just this side of that gentleman's shoes that you can see in front of you.
Fabulous. And what I'm really hoping is that this which is now very clear, this bit of stone that we hope is the metalling of the track would have taken us pretty much past the fort, wouldn't it?
That's the hope, yeah, that's the idea. So it's a pretty impressive and major route, shall we say. We're feeling quite lucky in our test pit 6.
Thank you very much, Emily. And now I'm going to go and talk to Poppy, who's one of your volunteers. Poppy, can I interrupt you?
Hello.
So, what are you doing?
So I am sieving, I think, context 4 for one of our test pits, just to see if there's anything Roman, anything interesting coming out.
Or anything at all, in fact.
Anything at all.
Yes.
Yeah, we're struggling at the minute because it seems to be a lot of like flint, tiny pebbles, that sort of thing, but we are still getting bone, some very nice like tile, roof tile potentially. There's a very nice boar tooth in there.
Yeah, because that's really important, isn't it, here? Because one of the things that makes Brancaster special and different is the amount of animal bone, as I understand it. And so you really need to get as much as possible of that to add to the picture of whether Brancaster's just feeding itself or whether it's feeding the rest of Roman Britain.
Yeah, definitely. And we've got a huge amount of oyster shells as well, which is really interesting because obviously that's likely what the Romans ate. So, yeah, it'll be great to see more of that come up and as we go down as well.
So how do you come to be volunteering in this windy field?
So I'm a Patreon member and I signed up to volunteer today.
So what's your best find so far?
We pulled out, I think it was a Roman pot earlier, and it was like a really small base, and then it came up, and then we found a second piece of it that we actually came together, and that was really exciting. That came out of Context 4, which we're in now.
That's really exciting, isn't it? Because it means that you know that this has been discarded very close to where it was broken.
Yeah, so that was really, really exciting. We're finding like small pieces of pot here and there as well, which we're kind of like pretending to put together, but yeah, it tells a bigger story, which is nice.
Lovely. Well, I'll let you carry on with it because it is so freezing cold, isn't it? And you're not actually getting an awful lot of exercise here.
No, we're like hunkered down.
Yes, behind the spoil heap, trying to keep out of the wind. Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I've come to somewhere that I think I know very well now, Naomi. Hello.
Hello.
We're standing by the flotation tank.
Yay!
Which I always think doesn't look like a piece of archaeological equipment. It looks like something fun to play with at a children's play area. But this is really, really important for doing archaeology. So what am I standing next to and how does it work?
Well, I mean, she's almost an artefact in herself because I think this tank's nearly 50 years old now, to be honest. I know, right? She's doing okay. This device, it's quite a simple device. So if you can see right inside here now, we have this H-shaped piece with lots of holes in. It's filled with water. When I press go on the button, water will come up. It lifts the water level over. We pour our soil in. We gently manipulate it. And what we're trying to do is get rid of the brown of the soil, I guess, And we agitate it. Things, hopefully, if they're in there, float up and into the sieve. So, for example, if we've got any charcoal in there, any mollusks, any carbonized grains, anything like that. So that gets caught in the sieve. So that's your flot. That's the flot bit of the flotation. And then what you're left with on the inside is all the heavy residue, so all the rocks and things that you get in soil. But trapped in within that, you could get more environmental remains. And more often than that, you get artifact recovery as well.
And why do you need to separate those things out?
Well, I mean, on a site like this where you're getting loads and loads and loads of finds, it may seem, sort of what's the point? But it's a two-pronged approach. One, we want to try and get environmental remains to add another layer of evidence to our site. But sometimes when we're not getting any finds, especially if you're on a site that's really clayey, you can't see what you're doing, you might get that crucial piece of pottery that dating evidence or that coin or something that you've been looking for. It might be trapped within the soil that you can't see it by eye, and the water just helps get rid of the stuff that you don't want to look at and leave you with the stuff that you do want to look at.
Now, I know you've been having a little bit of a nightmare over the last few days here at Brancaster because you were set up, we're by the toilets now on one side, but you were all the way over on the other side of the site and you had to move it because it was ridiculously windy. So how have conditions been affecting your ability to do this?
It was ridiculous. Like I've worked in the wind and the rain before, but when I turned the pump on yesterday and the water was going backwards, like away from the sieve, back into my face, I was like, nah, this is never going to work. So we're trying to find a quieter place, and there's this dip at the edge of the site, and we are next to the toilets, which doesn't seem very glamorous, but how calm is it down here?
Oh, it is so calm, away from the wind, so the perfect area to do this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you haven't had as much of a chance to do loads of this as you maybe would have done because of the problems that you were having, but have you managed to get anything done? Have you seen anything sort of exciting so far come out of this?
Not quite yet. I'm about to go and pick up some of the first of the soils because I know within some of the trenches there were different targets. In one trench they wanted to get down to our old 2012 layers, so there was no point in sampling that because that's stuff that's already been sampled back in 2012 and reported on. So they're now actually coming down onto features that we've not seen before. They're brand new, so they are prime for taking samples. So we are now ready. We are primed and ready. And as always, day 3, it will all kick off and I'll be running around like a mad thing, put it that way.
You're going to be very, very busy. Well, luckily you found the perfect spot. You're nice and sheltered, you're nice and calm, and you can get on with some proper flotation. Well, thank you very much, Naomi.
So, stay tuned. I'll let you know, Martin, if anything exciting comes up.
Please do. Thank you very, very much indeed. Well, there we go. That was very fun. Over to you, Helen.
Thank you very much, Martin. Oh, Martin, I can just see you. Look, I'm over here. Come here. Now, we've had such a lovely time at Brancaster. The sun is now out. It's a beautiful day, and we've been looking at all of the trenches and all. Oh,
Hello. Hello. I was only down there.
I didn't know whether to say hello to you in the camera or hello to you down there.
I was only down there.
Yes.
We have had a wonderful time, haven't we?
We
It's
have.
been brilliant.
We have got so much out of really comparatively small trenches. I think it's
I
been...
did archaeology.
No, I saw your dirty hands.
My
you haven't
hands.
washed it since.
They're dirty. This is manual labour that I did.
I think it's brilliant that you finally got your hands dirty in a real proper trench with some proper Roman archaeology.
I'm genuinely chuffed. I found an oyster shell. It was great. A really, really enjoyable time. And we've learned a lot. We've spoken to loads and loads of people as well. Have you had a nice time as well?
I've had a fantastic time. I mean, I haven't done nearly as much work as I thought I would have to do because we've had so many Roman experts and people who've known what they're talking about, so I can just go and ask them. But I've found out so much. It's been a real eye-opener. You know, there are these places where we think we know what's going on, and Brancaster's one of those, and we absolutely don't.
Yeah. Well, I think the real plan now, isn't it? We've been ages sort of doing the archaeology, making the programme, which you'll of course be able to see once we finished it and we put it out for you on YouTube. But I think you only really get an idea of what we've achieved here once these 3 days are over. We're in the middle of it right now, and it's really difficult to sort of see the wood for the trees, isn't it? But we shall know soon what we've discovered and be able to kind of piece it together a little bit more.
Yes, totally. The post-excavation process is the thing that tells us what we really have found, where we look at all the finds, we look at all the coins, all the dates, all the pottery dates, all the stratigraphy, all together across the site, across every trench and across the test pits too.
Well, look, this is pretty much it from here in Brancaster for us on the podcast. But if you are a Time Team member and you follow us on Patreon at Project Supervisor level or above, you will get access to a bonus episode which we recorded in that dome. Right the way over there, that very windy dome. We were joined by Danny and by Carenza and John very briefly as well, John Gater. So we talked about loads and answered some of the questions that you've been sending in as Time Team members over on Patreon. And thank you very much for those, by the way. Do go and check us out on Patreon if you want to join us, because you help fund all of this. You make this archaeology happen. Patreon.com/TimeTeamOfficial is where you need to go. Next week, we're bringing you something really special because a little bit later on, well, tonight actually, as we're talking to you, we're going to a community event that's happening here in Brancaster to give people a bit more of an understanding of what's going on here at this Roman fort site. And we're going to bring that to you on the podcast. So we're going to have questions from people in the audience. We're going to have a panel of experts from Time Team and beyond as well. And there's going to be loads to bring to people's attention. So we're going to do that on the podcast next week.
Fabulous.
It's going to be very good. So from here in Brancaster, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for listening to the Time Team podcast, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Join Time Team on Patreon to access exclusive 3D models, masterclasses, and behind-the-scenes insights.